Hello, and welcome to composition tutorial number 5. Today, we will be talking about melodic writing and how you can write melodies that sound different, as well as making the piece more interconnected as a whole. So, what is a melody in a piece of music? Well, a melody is usually what draws your ear in and captivates you and your attention in the music. It's what you hear on top of all the harmonies, texture, and ostinatos or other things that you may do. It's quite literally the most important thing. Now, the melody can come in many forms. On a piano, it's usually coming in the form of the topmost line, as is the case in 4-part writing. In counterpoint, you can have multiple melodies going on at once. Both are equally important. In vocal pieces, the melody is usually held by the singer. In orchestral pieces, the melody can be taken by any instrument. So, how do you write a melody? Now, I want to start by saying this. Melodies can be whatever you want them to be. They can be arpeggiated, that are used to outline the harmony. They can be scale-wise, that go only in half steps or whole steps. Or they can jump around even more than arpeggiated. Melodies are important, and therefore you should take creative liberty with them. Let's talk about melodies in counterpoint. When you have two more voices equally important, you will often want them to work in tandem. What I mean by this is, you will often want the melodies or important lines, or the most important lines I should say, not overlap each other as to make each one of them clear. You can also do certain things such as call and response, where you can have one melody make a call and one melody make a response. What I mean by this is one melody or one voice can make a statement and the other voice can respond to it with its own melodic idea. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the shape or contour of a melody. Like I mentioned before, you choose the notes of a melody. However, this often has a shape to it. For example, rising, falling, jumping around, whatever works. A melody oftentimes has a contour because it gives the ear something to follow. If it is rising, the ear often interprets it as excitement or something big is happening. The highest point in a melody is known as a climax, and this is often the most emotional part of one. A melody is divided up into several phrases. Now, of course, you choose the phrases, but what I mean by phrases is that oftentimes you will have certain sections of the melody where you will have these notes divided up into groups. And these groups serve as individual sections of that melody that help give it shape and structure. Phrases also help the performer interpret what to do with their performance. An important thing to consider when writing a melody is the type of instrument that you're writing it for. This is important because certain melodies will not work as well on certain instruments than on others. A famous example is a piano, which is often known for its bell tones of sorts. As such, it cannot sustain notes reliably for a long period of time, nor can it grow in volume on those sustained notes. As such, melodies which require that kind of thing will not be as impactful on a piano. Next, let's talk about one of the most important aspects in writing a melody. This aspect is the coherence of the melody in the composition as a whole. One of the most common traps I see newbie composers fall into is the over-reliance on their ability to write melodies and not their ability to use what they have. Composers often use a process called motivic variation, in which they take a small fragment of their already existing melodies that they may or may not have established at the beginning or middle sections of their piece. They take these fragments and do things like reverse them, maybe move them up, maybe adjust the intervals. What this achieves is helping the piece of music feel connected, coherent, and structurally sound. You need this because if you just come up with melodies and write them on the piece of paper and put them down, the piece of music will sound more like several episodes rather than one coherent work that tells a story. Motivic variation is also powerful because it gives you the ability to see how you can use your melodies for more than just in their base form. There are different types of motivic variation that exist, such as augmentation. The full list of these motivic variation techniques will be in the link below. Thank you for watching this composition tutorial. Join us next time as we begin our introduction to two-part videos of orchestration.